spirit. So I wrote and said that my religion does not permit this. Rather, what we should be doing is to have mutual understanding. Explain your own rituals, let me explain mine, so that when you practice your rituals, I would appreciate and respect you, and vice versa. So I wrote my paper. I thought it would just be thrown out of the windows. They wrote back and said, we have chosen the paper as the principal Muslim paper. Wallahi, I do not think that there was much in that paper that required being so selected. But when I delivered the paper over there, Baba Ifa of University of he was not the vice chancellor then. He was sitting beside me, and he said I had contradicted myself. He said, "You are saying that you disagree with mutual participation, and you are calling for mutual cooperation. You are contradicting yourself." And my answer to this challenge was a question: how can you achieve meaningful mutual participation without first achieving mutual understanding? I remember that the Buddhist man who shared room with me once said to me before we departed, "Dawood, you are the hero of this conference." But I didn't see anything spectacular that Dawood did. It was just that is the position of Islam. On another occasion, we were in Seoul, South Korea, and the person who actually invited us and sponsored that particular conference, Reverend Moon, announced that he and his wife had been selected as, and by God, according to him, as the true parents of mankind, because in his own words, Adam and Eve had become fallen parents of mankind. And he used anthropomorphic language for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I could not sit down there listening to such things, so I decided to write to him. I wrote to him, and some people offered to sign the letter. And they signed the letter, some 25 or 26 persons signed the letter from about 15 countries. And the Christians who were at that conference, the leadership agreed with us and thought that what we did was the best. Unfortunately, there were a few Muslim leaders from other parts of the country, of the world, who did not sign. I asked them, why did you not sign? They said, well, we agree with you, but this man paid for our flights. He provided hotel. And one of them happened to be the mufti of a country, I won't mention it. Then I said to him, if this man has been so kind to you, hasn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala been kind to you? And this man is insulting Allah, and you refuse to sign. So, another example of my experience occurred in India. It was a colloquium on interfaith cooperation. And my paper on that particular occasion was entitled, O People of the Book, the Quran's approach to interfaith cooperation. And I analyzed why the other faiths must see Islam as the true teaching of their own prophets. The Jewish man sitting next to me was enraged. The Christians, they opposed it, but they not so much. But the convener of our group, who was a Christian, a white American professor of religious studies, said, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the issue of revelation, Judaism is inconsistent. Christianity is inconsistent. Islam is consistent. And I said to myself, well, Alhamdulillah, someone from their household has already given testimony. And some of the members of my group, I remember one of them said to me at breakfast, Dawood, you know, in our group, we have been moving aimlessly. We are not actually focused. The only one that was not moving with us was you. You are like Rock of Gibraltar. And I said to him, it is not Muhammad, it is not Dawood, not at all. That is Islam. It is Islam that is the Rock of Gibraltar because it is the truth and will always remain the truth. Yes. Finally, I want to draw your attention to an experience that I had with my Vice Chancellor at the University of Ibadan at the time, late Olaide. It was in the course of a conversation between him, myself, and Abdurrahman Obokene, who was the chairman of council of our university. It was during the period of Hajj, and about 110,000 people went to Hajj from Nigeria. Olaide remarked, saying, they go to Hajj and come back and do evil. I thought that was very insensitive of him to say that in the presence of his chairman, the junior staff, not really. And I said to him, sir, if anybody went to Hajj and came back to do evil, we should give thanks to God that he went to Hajj, because if he didn't go, he would do more evil. He would do greater evil because no one would go to Hajj and would not be influenced by the various rituals of the Hajj. But the main reason why anyone would do that was they did not really understand what the Hajj really means before they left home. So they were not in a position to benefit as much as they should. So, brothers and sisters, those were some of the challenges that I faced in the course of my religious and academic journey in life so far, details of which are contained in my book, My Journey So Far. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Takbir. Takbir. Alhamdulillah. Allah bless our father. Continue to bless him with good health, iman, and everything good in this world and hereafter. Amen. We have literally been taken on a journey of a memory lane, and with a history dating back to the 1950s and 1960s, when some of us, or some of our mothers were even yet to be married. So, Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah accept it as ibadah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to salute the courage of our Baba. Kí Ọlọ́run kó bá wa fún wọn ní àlàáfíà ara tó pọ̀. Ọlọ́run kó jẹ́ kí wọ́n kó wa jẹ̀pẹ́. It is not a question per se, it's just a comment. And the first comment is that religious human rights violations is very, very severe, and it's great, especially to some of us that are working in the civil society. I recall when Baba was giving us the memory lane, that in the Gomina land, you will really sympathize with us. The ECWA started with an NGO, and they ended up with a church that dominated the area for more than 200 years. Secondly, my comment is on the Northern Nosara. We should be very, very careful in dealing with them, because you will not know that they have changed their religion. They may be bearing Muslim names, because I have a terrible experience. I had a friend for 20 years. She was bearing Muslim name. I did never know that she has crossed to the other faith. The third comment is on jihad. Jihad is not usually on the platter of gold. It's a struggle that we need to sail the road. The road is usually very lonely, but at the end of the tunnel, you will see the light and you will triumph. My strategy for the struggle is just three things. We need a lot of information, we need a lot of education, and we need to communicate, interact, dialogue, especially with our fathers. We need to come around them, listen to them, share some of their success stories, that in 21 or 26 years to come, I will be able to share this similar experience with Umma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have got the door of Sheikh for our Prof. The question I have is, during the beginning of the Prof lecture, he referred to the role played by Brother Mansour and Sheikh Najmuddin, the role they played in London by stabilizing their faith and the fear of some parents in sending their words to UK. I want to ask whether, do you think that fear is real? If it is real, what are the strategies to avoid faith dislocation?
The fear was real. It was real because experience showed that very many, majority of those Muslims who had the opportunity of going to England, at the time England, and who did not have a very, very sound Islamic upbringing, lost their faith. That was not peculiar to Nigeria. I know of a professor, an Arab, who told me that when he went to Germany as a postgraduate student in the 50s or so, he could not help taking alcohol. And I think that habit remained with him even up to the time that I knew him. But I think he later gave it up before he passed on. That was also the experience of some Nigerians, particularly from Yoruba land. But things have changed, and changed for the better. With particular reference to the Nigerian Muslim community, there are so many. I think we now have about 25 Muslim organizations that are under the umbrella of the CNN. Now, the organizations have had the required effect of providing opportunity and avenue and forum for people who would have been lost in the wildlife of London. An opportunity for them to hear about Islam once again. And many of them, and I must again refer with pride to Sheikh Najmuddin and Mansour and their allies for improving their Islam within the masjid of the Muslim Association of Nigeria, to the extent of the fact that they themselves now became teachers of Islam. And many of our children born there, some of them have never been to Nigeria. Some of them have become kuffar. They have memorized the Quran. And many of them choose to spend their holiday in Egypt. to improve their Arabic language. So things are improving, but even then, we still have to be on our guard because the impact of the other side is still very strong.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We thank Allah, and we thank our professor, and the best time to see Jazakumullahu khairan jazak. Wa subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.